Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Trench Club Legacy, which is brought to you by PKB Games. It's for 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, and games generally run about 60 to 240 minutes. During the First World War, France and Britain wrestled with Germany and Austria-Hungary for the dominance of a decisive front section. Take on the role of a general and send your troops into battle. Barrage enemy units with artillery fire and attack them with your tanks and infantry, or surround and annihilate them. Trench Club is a complex strategy game in which, in addition to attack strength and armor of the troops, their tactical setup, combat experience, damage, and terrain have a decisive influence on the outcome of the battle. Since each unit brings its own strengths, you must cleverly assemble your army to win the victory over your opponents. And this new edition expands the rules of Trench Club into a legacy format, creating your alternative history during World War I in this strategy game with detailed miniatures. Command your tanks and troops through battles, develop new technologies, and make history with this standalone legacy campaign. So yes, this new version of Trench Club is a legacy version where you'll have stickers you'll be applying to the board. You'll have new rules that evolve the game. You have boxes you open as you get new units and things across the board. And you'll have story elements to lead you through the campaign. Technology you're going to be evolving, and you're going to have officers that you get to name and add to your troops. So it really does open up the world and the game and gives you this nice story campaign element for sure. But if you don't know Trench Club, let's take a look at the basics. First off, yes, this is a World War I war strategy game where you have units and you have a unit sheet for your different factions, and there are 11 different units that you can use throughout the board, and you can put your armies together really however you see fit. They do have some guidelines of how to start off your first battles, and they also suggest you do the basic game before you jump into the legacy. Now, there's all kinds of, like I said, units to move across the board, and you're going to be engaging with your fellow players, trying to reduce them to ashes, obviously. And through the course of that, you're going to be moving, you're going to be attacking, you're going to be getting experience that gives you more dice. Yes, dice! This game does have a fair amount of dice checking in it, and I like that aspect. The other nice thing is these unit boards for your troops really add everything you need to know about those units. It gives you speed, it gives you your armor, your attack, all of that. It also says what it costs to replace them and so forth. So those stats are all here, easily accessible on your sheet when you engage in battle. So every turn of the game has 4 main phases, and that 4th phase actually has 3 steps to it, so it's kind of like 6 phases. But the 4 main phases, you're going to start off with movement. Now what's neat here is that you have the speed of your unit, but the different terrain types are going to change up how much you can move through. Like roads only cost half a movement point. Moving through a forest though is a full movement point and a half. So the different chart for the quick reference guide leads you through all the different terrain types and how you handle them as you move around the board and try to position yourself to engage in battle. And while you're moving, one of the things you want to try to do with your infantry is move into these forts, because the forts that you occupy are going to gain you money at the end of your turn. So you can use that money to get more troops and do repairs. So it's crucial to hold on to those and gain them, and they're going to change hands quite frequently through the course of the game. So phase 2 is all about just naming your targets that you're going to be attacking in phase 3, the combat. And it's really that simple. That's all you're doing in phase 2. Now, before we look at combat, one of the neat things about these units that I really like is that they have these 2 posts, and you'll be tracking, so it's a visual representation of their damage and how much experience they have. So every time you attack and you hit and you destroy units, you're going to be getting experience. So you have white for your novice, you have yellow for a veteran, and red for your war heroes, but those will augment everything you're doing in attacking and doing damage to your opponents. Phase 3 is all about rolling dice and doing damage to your opponents. This is the combat. So it's really straightforward, which I love. And you do have to be mindful about what units you're using. Air units can only attack air units and so forth, things like that. But the nice thing though is that you have a chart and you first look to see, do I have any damage on my unit? If I do, then I have to use less dice. So no damage, you get 12 dice. And if you have 2 damage, then you only get to use 10 dice. Also, if you happen to surround your opponent or flank them, you're going to get 3 or 2 additional red dice that adds just that little bit extra to your attack, which is really nice. So you'll roll your dice and see how many successful hits you were able to achieve. Now, those hits aren't directly related to damage. Instead, you have to consult the chart for the units. Now, let's take a look at a simple tank battle. My tank has an experience of 3, so they need to roll an 8 or less to get a hit on the other tank. Now, you look at the chart for the other tank and you'll see that it requires 5 hits to get 2 damage. Or if they're in a forest area, it's going to require 7 hits to get 2 damage. So the charts are super quick and easy to access when you're moving into battle and attacking units and determining the damage. And once you do determine damage, you'll add it to the posts, and as well as you'll add the different experiences for doing damage to your opponent. I really like how quick and straightforward they've made all these different battles. Just easy to engage with, easy to calculate, and then move on. And you can do multiple units. It actually moves very fast as you move into combat and battle. Now, the last phase is really kind of the money phase, but there's 3 parts to it. You're going to collect money for the different forts that you control, and then you have the opportunity to repair units if they're at the fort, and also buy new units, bringing them in at the fort where you are in control, in any of the forts that you're in control of. So it is a way to get more units on the board and to repair units, and obviously those forts are going to be changing hands quite frequently through the course of the game. So those are really the basics of everything you're doing throughout the course of the battles and how you move around the board. But let's take a closer look at what the Legacy version brings. Now, I don't want to spoil too many things, so we're not going to do a deep dive into all the new content, all the things that are possible in the campaign, but know that there is the Legacy map, there's boxes that you'll be opening, we'll open one of them. Now, there's also envelopes that allow you to do scenario or skirmishes, but they will have a fair amount of spoilers in them from the campaign. So after you play the campaign, you can go to these envelopes, or you can just bypass it altogether and use the envelopes. So things to keep in mind as you play and so forth. The thing I really like though is the cards. As you pull these cards and set up the different scenarios and move through the campaign, it doesn't require that you read a heavy set of rules in order to engage with it. Everything you need to know is basically in the cards and how you set them up. So first we have the instructions cards. This will show you how to set up and play the current battle that you're moving into. And then we have the briefing. Now, most of these cards in general are going to be read out loud to everyone. Sometimes the briefing is going to be specific for a certain team, like the Central Powers, and then they'll keep that to themselves to see what it is. But in general, you'll read that stuff out loud. And then there's a rules card that will only apply to this battle. You'll place it face up next to the Legacy board for everyone to see. All kinds of different things here. Maybe it starts in peacetime, and when you engage in battle, certain things happen. There's also an event card that is played face down until the event is triggered within the battle, and then you'll flip it over. And finally, we have the news. This is the thematic piece of the game. I love this aspect. You'll take one of the newspapers, you'll flip it over and read it aloud to what is happening within the war, how it's evolving, what is triggering events. I really love the thematic nature here. They're short enough that you can easily engage with this thematic story as you move through the campaign. A couple other cards I want to talk about are your unit cards and your officer cards. Now, these will be acquired through the course of the campaign and so forth, but as you level up your different technologies on the Legacy board, we'll take a look at that in a minute, you will get the different cards and what different types of units you can add. So in this case, we have Infantry 1, and it allows us to add a Stormtrooper to the world if we choose to pay for that unit and put it out. So these are really cool as you develop technologies and different units to add to the campaign and the battle. Now we also have officers. Now officers are going to give you a ton of customization. First, there's going to be stickers to augment the portrait of your officer and so forth, but you have your name, rank, and faction that it'll be part of. And you'll have this abilities that you'll be able to tap into. You'll have this setup ability, and you'll have a one-time ability, and you'll have an ongoing. Now these will also be stickers that you'll apply to the card as you level that character up. So to say, as he survives from one campaign to the next, you'll get more opportunity to add and develop these officers. And finally, let's take a closer look at this Legacy board. Now again, I did not apply stickers to it. I just got a small taste of the campaign as I played through a couple scenarios. But at the bottom of the board is where you'll be placing the new rules for this battle and any events that might be triggering. Also at the top of the board, you'll be placing stickers along the timeline for who won and so forth. It'll show through the different years as you move through. It's really nice. And then the different areas, different territories that you conquer, you'll be placing stickers. These are victory points that you're going to be getting. And there's also some shame that you can get throughout the course of the game, which as you develop the story and move through it, you'll discover what that is. And of course, the more important thing that I really liked about this is the technology tree on the far right as you develop those technologies to get bigger and better units through the whole course of the war. So at the end of each battle, you'll apply stickers to this legacy board. And you'll start with the timeline who won. You'll have different territories that were conquered. You'll add your stickers to those, giving you, again, those victory points. And then, obviously, you have your tech tree that you'll be keeping track of as well. And if there's any shame to be had based on the battle that you engaged with. Now, there's a couple ways to win. If you take out your opponent's capital, then you'll pull the appropriate card and read it. And that will end the game. But also, you know, it's pretty deep to get through all those territories in order to take out those capitals. So more likely you're going to end the war with an armistice, and whoever has the most territories is going to win the overall campaign and the war. So how the campaign plays out and how you engage in these battles and try to win victory is key to winning the war. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, you know, I really found this game to be really engaging and super easy to jump into. I was really surprised. This is a war game, lots of strategic movement, how you place your units, of course. But just the rules, there's not a heavy-handed set of rules to dive into. And I found that very refreshing for this type of game. And the legacy aspect adds so much story and theme to what's happening. And I love the technology tree and how you develop the different units and so forth. And moving through the cards and how the story plays out. Really engaging. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it from me. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.